This is the Sinner review for the S-rank Endura Sinner Lichen. Lichen is part of the Burn team and functions as a tank and amper who can also core break, filling in crucial gaps in the team comp. TLDR, she is considered meta in the new Burn team and forms the core of it with RF Yao and Ti Chuan. She gains spirituality value, her own special version of M value instead of energy, and whenever someone on her team applies burn marks, she needs 60 spirituality to use her ult. Though she can apply them herself, against a single target, it takes her 1 full minute to gain another use of her ult. This and other factors limits her use outside of Burn team. Let's get into her kit. Her characteristic states that she has 2 block and that she can ult when she has 60 spirituality. Additionally, Lichen's general gimmick is that she has 2 states, fettered or unfettered. Fettered means trapped or imprisoned, and unfettered is, well, not trapped. Basically, fettered is standing emoji and unfettered is I am giving buffs. She starts the fight fettered, and when you ult, she is unfettered for 12 seconds. Then she goes back to being fettered afterwards. While standing emoji, whenever an allied sinner attaches a burn mark to an enemy, Lichen obtains 1 point of spirituality, up to 2 per second. So at minimum, it takes her 30 seconds to ult from having nothing. What's interesting is that while she's unfettered, her magic resistance swaps with her attack value. It switches back after unfettered ends. Yao players will already see what Aizno is cooking here. When Yao uses her ult to eat an ally, she takes part of their base attack value for herself and calculates it into her own damage. Historically, this means we've always wanted to pick other high attack sinners, such as Raven or Millie ideally, as Yao's snack. This unfortunately does lose their buff or ult. However, with Lichen now, who has a very high base resistance of 814 at maximum compliance, as of Clementine's patch, this is the highest resistance stat in the game, and this is higher than max compliance Millie's attack, which is 800, and only slightly lower than Corin's 849, who is currently the highest attack stat in the game. Moving on, for her base attack, Lichen rings the bell in her hand every second and deals some damage in a cross area around her. This damage attaches a burn mark to enemy's hit, and it doesn't seem to be affected by attack speed. If Lichen is the only one who can apply burn marks on the team, as mentioned before in a single target boss fight, she will take at least 60 seconds to use her ult again, invalidating her use in fights like TOA for most teams outside of burn. Once Lichen gathers up 60 spirituality, you can use her ult at any time. Her ult deals 1 core damage in a 3x3 area around her. Of interest, despite Burn being a magic damage team, this core break works against enemies immune to magic damage, such as Stage 1 in the current season of CN's Dark Zone. I guess because it's only core damage and it's not attached to magic damage on the ult, IDK. Anyway, enemies standing in that 3x3 around her will also take up to 30% increased skill damage. This is a fairly valuable category. You do get it from Water Blue's P2, but also unfortunately from Ti Chuan's S3, reducing the value of it a bit in Burn since you tend to use Ti Chuan with it. 30 is still a good buff, so whatever, we ball. Lichen's P1 grants different effects depending on which state she is in. If she is fettered, when allied sinners attach a burn mark, she will grant them a shield. The numbers are alright on this, and they can be used to tank most damage, such as in a healerless TOA, or Dark Zone has quite some damage these days. If she is unfettered, when allied sinners attach a burn mark, she grants them a stack of Fire Rune. This can stack up to 5 times, and each stack grants a bonus 10% skill damage dealt for 8 seconds. Yes, 50% bonus skill damage dealt for Burn Sinner. This is a very big component of her kit, so you see why she is core to this team and somewhat limited outside of it. Her P2 is yet another Yao synergy. When she enters the unfettered state, she gains a stack of Imperial Bell. When Lichen suffers lethal damage or is swallowed, she can consume a stack of this to cheat death and restore 60% of her HP. The specification of swallow is important because Rust has a similar use stack to cheat death mechanic, but Yao's ult is not really considered lethal damage, but a swallow specifically. Rust's stacks cannot prevent death from Yao's ult, but Lichen's can. So this phrasing is clearly indicating that Lichen is the intended target for Yao's ult. This passive solves the issue of Yao having to sacrifice allies to be able to ult, especially in longer fights. You can also get around this by using Cassian, but of course his attack value is quite low, so you don't gain as much from that. Though, because Yao's gonna get an RF, you can use Nox's EX in the EX slot, and I have seen some people do some pretty sick runs with Nox EX and Cassian on RF Yao's team. But anyway, Lichen's ECB1 is a must-have because whenever Lichen enters unfettered, she gains one more stack of Imperial Bell. It's 1 at all ECB levels. The ECB levels change how much spirituality she has when entering the battle, at 30, 45, 60 depending on ECB level. I found that ECB1 is sufficient since most bosses don't reveal their cores that early in Dark Zone, and if you're playing Burn Team, you'll have her ult in about 15, 20 seconds-ish. It's totally fast enough. You really just need the ECB1 for the extra Imperial Bell stack, so that you can basically use Yao to eat Lichen twice for free. Then you kill her for a third ult if necessary. Though, well, not a lot of things will survive 2 ults from RF Yao now, even at low shackles or without Tichuan, as you can see here. Speaking of shackles, Lichen's S1 causes all allied sinners to deal 20% more damage when she enters unfettered for 12 seconds. It's the same duration as her ult. It is a buff, though it's a little diluted by last stand if you're using that. It's not a must-have. S2 and S5 increase Lichen's resistance, but do note, the only extra base stat you can get is from compliance. Shackle, Crime Baron, skill buffs don't count, and Yao eats base attack, so she also eats base resistance from Lichen, so this doesn't help with that. Though this resistance gain on Lichen would count if you're equipping something like Oasis on her. S3 increases the buff from Fire Room by 50%, taking it from a 50% to a 75% skill damage dealt buff, and increases the duration of the stack to 12 seconds, again lining up better with her ult duration. Though it sounds impressive, after dilution, this is more like a actual gain of 16.6%, and also LL tends to be in this team, further diluting the skill damage dealt. So if I were a casual player, I wouldn't bother chasing the shackle when S0 Lichen is already so complete. S4 increases the damage coefficient of burn marks by 1.5 times. You can kind of think of this as a unique multiplier, so it's a big increase to damage dealt by Hestia or Yin Yin, whose kits work around summing up then detonating burn mark coefficients. However, RF Yao's ult, which is most of her damage, though after RF, is considered burn damage. This is not the same as burn mark. So S4 Lichen does not buff burn damage directly. S3 and S4 are very much for people with a very specific goal in mind, on some fancy stuff they want to do with burn team and multipliers. They're not bad, they're actually pretty good, but I don't think most players would be able to optimize and get or feel much use out of them. Overall, Lichen is a massive addition to the burn team and very important to get if you intend to play Yao in the future. I will say, in this specific video for Lichen and Burn Team, Lichen's arrival actually makes Yao pretty good again, even without the reforge. Here's the proof. However, to cope with the general power creep, you will need some shackles on some supports and a decent understanding of how to route stages, probably an S1 Hestia as well to make wave clearing more feasible. This video does not use Sichuan, who is RF Yao's other best support, but everyone is all S5, which is why in my Polrex video I said do not get Yao if you do not plan to reforge her. There is a difference between whether something is possible and whether something is suitable for people who would look for Polrex or Sinner reviews like this. That's more casual players who want to clear things without squeezing out their last brain cell. I cater my poll advice more towards assuming people don't want to stress and mold or pull high shackles on a lot of supports. Additionally, when people post videos online, it's usually because they did some cool shit, and I don't want you guys to be misled or confused by that, expecting you can do it without reforging Yao. Reforging Yao is really a huge gain that makes things so much easier. Please prepare to do that. And pull Zichuan if you want to play Burn Team. Anyway, that's all for this video. I've heard great things about the new Eternal Nightmare and I'm looking forward to it. Hope you enjoy the new patch and I will see you in the next video to prepare for our 3.5 anniversary. Bye bye!